All right, welcome back. Yes, we're going to start off focusing on the forthcoming general elections, as you've seen there with Mr. Mike Igini, former resident electoral commissioner for Akwa Ibom. Say good morning, Mr. Igini. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, there are a number of issues that are making the rounds now in terms of the INEC chairman raising concerns about attacks to INEC offices. Then there's the question of security. We've seen the courts really busy with electoral matters, and there's still quite a number of them that are yet to be decided. So now, from your position, having taken a step back, looking at it from where you are, what do you consider as the most important thing that we need to rein in right now as the preparations for the elections continue?
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Thank you for having me this morning. First and foremost, I am very concerned, as always, the attacks on INEC offices across the country, particularly in the area that have been identified. But my greatest pain and tragedy of our country is that sustained attacks of INEC offices across the country over the years, not just this time. I'm worried, Chamberlain, that we have not been able to deal with this situation. Attack on INEC office and attack on democracy. That for several years this have happened and we have not been able to bring anybody to book is the reason why this has continued. Remember that in 2007, this is the tragedy of our country. 2007, an explosive loaded a truckload with explosive and petrol was stationed, drove into INEC office headquarters. That is headquarters in Abuja in 2007. The truck has number. Somebody drove the truck in. Up to today, we have not been able to do anything on that. So why would people not think that they can, political elite, not that they can get away with that kind of situation? Also remember that a truckload conveying INEC material on the eve of the 2007 election from Abuja also appeared, and nothing has happened. 2011, we have pockets of this. 2019, we have several of that took place in the country. Today, we are talking about days, 2 months or 3 months to election. This is what is going on at the moment. Look, democracy works on the understanding that all who has a role to play must do so. I mean, look at the pictures that are being shown right now. Same thing happened in 2019 in Akwa Ibom, for instance, where the last place I said before I left the commission, where generators, car readers were all set ablaze on the eve of election. But here is the good news here for the people of Nigeria, that all that is going on, they are intended to discourage you, to make you feel that this election should not take place, will not take place. Let me inform, and I think the commission have done so. INEC has the capacity to respond to these challenges, particularly with respect to the PVCs that have been burnt. INEC has the VIN number of all the PVCs. Assuming, for instance, that those information that are contained in the office that have been burnt, like the one you are showing now, or any other one, they will have those information at the state head office. If you don't have those information at the state office, Abuja also have those VIN number of all those PVC that have been destroyed. It's a matter of days. INEC will produce them. The only challenge we have here is that when you destroy, take away people PVC, thinking that is going to be, it's not going to help anybody. INEC will produce those PVC to those who are to have them. Generators that have been burnt, well, this is an additional cost to the nation because this is a time we needed to manage our resources. We don't have enough. Why should extra-constitutional actors, why should non-legitimized actors continue to attack INEC. This is an attack on democracy. My pain is that we have not been able to track anybody. For 10 years that I work in INEC, we have unable to track those who attack INEC offices. It's a big challenge to all security agencies in this country that for these years, we are unable to track people who attack our democracy. I mean, look at what's happening in the US. All those who attacked the Capitol Hill on January 6th, they are being brought to book every day. Here, we appear to be in a state of anomaly. That is my greatest worry. But instead of responding, INEC has what we call both emergent and rational plan. Through its own emergent plan, it's going to respond to some of these challenges that have been thrown up. But for Nigerian people to know that power is back to you. This whole thing going on is to see that you are unable to exercise your franchise. 2023, you have a date with history, and that will be made possible by the commission and all others who have a role to play in the 2023 elections.
Well, a very comprehensive answer you've given to that particular question, because I'm sure that, there were many other questions we wanted to ask from that. For instance, how does it affect the conduct of elections from your experience as a resident electoral commissioner? But you have also touched on that particular aspect. But let me bring you to something that happened yesterday. The president addressing the economic community of West African states and saying he's going to be delivering he wants to deliver free, fair, and credible elections. That's the legacy he wants to leave behind, not just in Nigeria, but also in West Africa. For you, how big an influence would you say that the president of a country has on an electoral process, especially when you already have, say, a body like the Independent National Electoral Commission? Aren't they already, independent? How much influence can the president wield in ensuring free, fair, and credible elections?
Thank you, Mark. I think that the way we should take the statement of Mr. President, which he has made severally at various fora, is to take it from the point of view of the context that as a president of the Republic, who is on his final term, that he will ensure that those agencies that are directly under his control, and of course, INEC is not under the control or direction of the president, by virtue of Section 160 of the Constitution of the Fatherland. I will refer to it, quote it for you shortly. But to land on this point is that you must take the statement of the president from the point of view of a context, that as a president, where election would take place and is not running for an office, his duty is to ensure that all those agencies under his control and direction that have a role to play in ensuring successful election, which are as the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, all right, the Office of Inspector General Police, the Army in terms of keeping the border, not where election is taking place, all right, and all that security agency under his control. He will ensure that they commit to that. And that was exactly what he did, speaking contextually at the Owe 3-day retreat conference for conference and retreat for senior police officers from Abia State to Zamfara State, where all the commissioners of police that have been enjoined under Section 91 to provide adequate security for those who are conducting rally procession in the build-up to the 2023 elections. He made it point very clear that they must remain apolitical. They must remain firm and committed to democratic values. That as a president who will be leaving and the election is taking place, where he's still in office, he wants the best to be done. With respect to INEC, INEC remains an independent election management body by virtue of Section 160, which says for the benefit of that to all Nigerians, so that you can take the statement of the president in the context, not that he has a direct influence to determine what will happen in INEC. Because that section says that perhaps with respect to other executive bodies created under Section 153 of the Constitution, with respect to the independent national electoral commissions, its powers to make rules or regulation or write its own procedure shall not be subject to the control or direction of the president. That is section 160 that was brought about by under the Jonathan regime, the first amendment. So the president is always speaking from that point of view. And I think that he had done so at various forums, which of course you referred to. And in one of our last engagement on this program, I said that that's the kind of thing that we expect from the sitting president, even assuming it's also even participating. Of course, it's also participating to the extent that his own political party will be on the ballot. But we must take the speech of the president and the references he's been making, into account. That is only referring to the fact that he will ensure with respect to those bodies and call it on all Nigerians. And I think that's what we should key on to. So, not necessarily because he has influence over the president. Not at all, it does not.
Right. So would you say then, Mr. Igini, that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, as it is constituted today, as it is funded, as it operates today, is truly independent?
Ayo, I worked in that system for 10 years. The INEC, from the time of Professor Jega, under Jonathan, up to this moment, the best of my knowledge before I left, remains an independent executive management, but irrespective of the fact that the president, under the Constitution, performing constitutional duty, and that will be done by any other president, makes nomination, takes people to the Council of State, propose nominees to the Council of State, and of course take to Senate to go and confirm. Let me say this, the cock belongs to a man, but his crow, early morning crow, is for the entire neighborhood, irrespective of who appoint INEC that we know of. The early morning crow of the cock belongs to the entire neighborhood. INEC will work good of the people of our country.
What if the man chooses? What if the man chooses to, do what he wants to do with his cock, take it inside, and then prepare a good meal with it? The crow is no more for the neighborhood, is it?
Ayo, as somebody who grew up in the village and in the urban setting, when I refer to the fact that what I'm saying remains the truth. The cock belongs to the man, but his early morning crow is for the entire neighborhood.
But you do agree that the man can choose to do whatever he wants with the cock. But I understand that saying.
Right.
Let's move on to some of the issues you raised, and I'd like you to speak pointedly to it. So if you say that ever since we've been seeing attacks on INEC installations, burning buildings, even attacking INEC personnel as well, and destroying voting materials and all of that, no one has been brought to book. Who is meant to bring those people to book? Whose responsibility is this?
In election management process, it is based on the understanding that all who has a role to play must play that role. INEC does not have its own security outfit. Perhaps I may just want to suggest here, on account of what is continuing to be going on, is that in line with Section 91, which for the first time has now decided to make the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, under Section 91 to assist the Nigerian police in this direction, it may now be necessary that we should now have the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. I think they bear arm at the moment or so to now fully actually be made to work with INEC, in which case, in the 774 local government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, our LGA, we may now need to have arms-bearing security personnel, because what we have at the moment are just mere security guards. They are just guards who, most of the time, when those who want to set INEC officers ablaze, they have to run for their life. This is the situation where we are at the moment.
Since we should be asking the security agencies, perhaps the police and others who are charged with protecting INEC installations, about prosecuting and bringing them to book.
Yes, of course, without missing word. That is the job of security. That's not the job of INEC. The job of INEC is to prepare the country. This security has its own role to play. Just like the media. Look at the role you are doing, educating Nigeria, setting agenda, and all of that. Everybody must play his own role.
Okay.
INEC does not have its own security outfit. Perhaps we need to now have Civil Defense Corps fully attached to INEC.
Well, my colleague Bukola will be coming in soon, just by way of heads up. This is Kayode, by the way, not I.
Oh.
But
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just wanted to also point out, because you said that indeed INEC has the vein of those PVCs and all of that, and perhaps they will be getting their voter cards eventually before the election. But don't forget, Mr. Igini, that INEC had said that, you know, the PVCs would start, they'll start giving out PVCs for those who registered from, is it January to July, in November. 2 days to the end of November, INEC put out a statement, I think yesterday, saying well, they're having some program and they will make a decision on when they will start and the modality after December the 2nd. So clearly, for those who have even registered, we're not sure when they will get in. And now for people whose PVCs have been destroyed, what is the assurance that they will get their PVCs? Don't forget that INEC chairman has said there will be no incident form again. So it looks like without your PVC, you might not be voting. Am I correct?
Absolutely right, Kayode, that by virtue of Section 47 of the current 2022 Electoral Act, the use of PVC is both statutory and procedural. You cannot vote without your PVC. If I don't forget the slogan in 2015 election, that no PVC, no voting, that INEC slogan has not changed, not at all. Now, the firm comment I'm making with respect to INEC capacity is based on what I know. But you've heard from the chairman, in fact, from your background intro to this program, it was very clear that the commission will be up to the task. And that I know very well, because the V numbers are already there. With respect to those who are here to collect, I know, for instance, that the PVCs of people who have registered in the last few months, they don't want to do a staggered distribution process. They just want to have everything together. And of course, from what we've been told, which of course we also discussed before I left the commission, there's going to be a comprehensive process of distribution. It will be seamless. You see, collection of PVC could even happen even days before the election. That's not a problem. The bigger issue is one we have dealt with, the commission has dealt with, that is registration process. But with respect to collection, Kayode, I can, from the little I know, and from the assurance we are now getting, I'm not a guy in INEC though, but from the system we already have in place before I left, which to the best of my knowledge has not changed, there will be a template for seamless distribution of the PVC. All I just want to call Nigerians to do is that you have a date with history. You know, enough of building individual paradise and live in a common hell. 2023, you have a date with that history. The panic around the country by the political elite who are responsible, because look, let me say this here. All these things that are happening, they are sponsored by political elite. They are the one that are orchestrating this tendency that is almost sapping our democracy to a point of saturation. This is where we are. But the beauty is that hope is reborn in Nigerians. They should not be bothered with what's going on. INEC will respond to that. But statutorily, you cannot vote without your PVC. You must come with your PVC to the polling unit. No PVC, no accreditation, no voting in 2023.
Mr. Igini, I'd like to share your optimism, you know, where that is concerned, particularly in the distribution of PVCs, even those that have been reportedly destroyed in that attack on the INEC offices in Ibom and in some other states. You know, but then you know that INEC runs on a budget, so we hope that they will prioritize the enfranchisement of voters, you know, above all other concerns as we approach the 2023 elections. But let's make progress. I'd like you to talk about, you know, some other key aspects of the electoral process, i.e. the court judgments on Akwa Ibom and Yobe senatorial primaries, you know, before the election. I know that in the run-up to this process, you had vigorously provided an interpretation to Section 115 of the Electoral Act. It would seem as if the court has now upheld that. So what's your view, particularly with what options now are available to those who have, by these court judgments being disqualified from the process. So what are the options available to them, and what's your view on these court judgments?
Well, Bukola, thank you very much. In the first place, we shouldn't be where we are right now, because the whole essence of trying to strengthen internal party democracy was the reason why Section 84, subsection 1 was very clear. And this is what the two different panels of the Court of Appeal, with respect to the cases you reference, have actually affirmed correctly. And if the political parties have agreed to follow the tenet of the 2022 electoral act, we will not be here today. But let me make one point very clear. Why commending the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court for setting up a task force to deal with these huge cases that ordinarily shouldn't have happened if the political parties were, subscribing to the principle of internal party democracy as strengthened by the 2022 Electoral Act. That despite the task force that have been put in place, Bukola, is a serious level of electoral discredit in our country, that most candidates for senatorial, for State House of Assembly, for House of Rep, senatorial will not be known before the 2023 election. Because more of the cases now, majority of them are still at the level of the Federal High Court. In fact, the Akwa Ibom reference since August, where they moved these matters, judgment was reserved. But what happened? I learned that the judge who presided over, because they have almost in Akwa Ibom, we have about 40 cases there. The judge was transferred to another division. So they have to start all over again with a new set of people. This is where you are at the moment. Now, with respect to Section 115, you see, it's unfortunate that one of our own, Mohamed Aruna, has gone public, despite some of us having to call him privately to say, look, the view you are expressing, if we're going to criticize a fellow colleague in the public, was wrong over Section 115, which Channels Television, the first, where on June this year, we had a conversation about this subject matter of Section 115, to the effect that every provision, every section you find in the 2022 Electoral Acts is intended to cure a mischief by politicians in our country. And that the background to these sections must be understood. Section 115 intended to prohibit, to discourage the idea of somebody buying 2 nomination forms for different constituency elections. For example, we are in November, right? A senatorial election will be taking place this month. A candidate, an individual buys a form. By December next month, a presidential primary, for instance, will be taking place. How do you now say that somebody who participated in the May 27 senatorial election that was concluded, but somebody participated in the presidential, suddenly now came back again to participate in that same one? What is intended to be cured here is this. There's a time for nomination for sales of form by political parties. There's a time for close of sales of forms. After the sales of forms and you have collected the form, you have to sign it. You fill it and you sign it. After signing, the third stage is a stage where the political party will have to do screening. When they finish screening, they will send the names of those who have been screened. The question now is, as at May, those across the country who are now running from different places to the other, were their names screened and given to INEC, as at that time, the answer is capital no. All right? Now, how come that we were screened for a different election? This is what that section is intended to cure. Now, Bukola, let me inform you here. I could see under Section 115 what we call inelegant drafting. In fact, what I even refer to in my book, either status sabotage or status capture, in the sense that Section 115, Section D, it has 2 parts because it uses the word or, which is disjunctive, that if a person fills a form intended to be a candidate or signs a result form, no candidate in election ever signed a result form. You only sign nomination form.
Igini.
Now the question now is the person who signs a nomination form, all right, for this election, senatorial, all right, signed for presidential, he has violated section 115, subsection D, as well as subsection 3. We say that people attempt to do so. Now, let me break it down so that Nigeria can now see the difference between what Mohammed Haruna...
all right, Mr. Igini, as brief as possible, because we need to wrap up, though.
Oh, yeah, very brief as possible. You see, Mohammed Haruna, it does not involve, it's not involved in core INEC duty in the commission. He's an auctioneer. He's an auctioneer in chief. Now, the point is that he does not know what is going on. The definition section is quite misleading because INEC from CF001 and CF002 have changed to CF9 and B. Now, those forms are free. It is the form that you buy and you pay 100 million or 20 million, as the case may be, are the form referred to under the Act. And that is why, if the idea is that it is somebody who has become a candidate, that you can seem to have violated that section, it means that that section is not intended to do anything at all. It is the form that you have.
All right, Mr. Igini, that we'll definitely pick up from there when in our continuous voter education process. We do appreciate your time this morning, Mr. Mike Igini, former resident electoral commissioner for Akwa Ibom State. Well, just before we wrap up, we also like to know that the police did hold a meeting, I remember on the 17th of this month, and they issued a communique. So just to remind us that they, after that meeting with the IGP, they ordered that these commissioners of police were to activate ICCES, that's a security platform, and deploy men to INEC facilities. All security agencies are to send their men to their respective CPs to fortify INEC facilities. The communique also reads that the IGP will be coordinating at the national level, and letters have since been written to service chiefs and heads of security agencies to ensure that that coordination is done. So that is the bit that the police is doing about these elections and ensuring that INEC offices and security is guaranteed in the build-up to the elections. We'll be doing this as we progress regularly, time and again. So that is that bit there. But we will be back in just a moment. We'll be talking about the elections again, but find out where in a moment.